Time on that set.
Wow. Put me in the... I thought I was already in the hot seat. Jeez.
Were you a math kid?
Of course. I'm a huge math nerd.
Yeah,
Have you seen my channel? It's a theory.
Yeah, it's like,
I saw that smile creeping onto your face.
Well, hello, everybody. It's happened.
Oh, my God.
It's happened. If you've been listening from podcast number 1, we joked. Ha, ha, ha. We will do an algorithm hour with MatPat. That'll never happen. And because of how wonderful MatPat is, he's here to do the algorithm hour.
Yay.
Oh, my God.
Welcome to the algorithm hour.
It sounds so nice, right? It actually is like, why didn't somebody call something that
Right? Someone needs to start an NPR show. That's the algorithm hour.
Yeah.
So if you're unfamiliar, I am Benny Fine. My brother Rafi Fine's across the way. And this is MatPat from Theorist Media.
Yes, Theorist Media.
Yes,
That's us. Well done.
Because it's not just the game theorist anymore, guys.
Right.
It's a lot more than that.
Lots
No,
of
it's
theories.
true. We are theorizing about video games, movies, and TV, and we're also doing all sorts of live streaming too.
Yeah.
Very
early on, like helping YouTube to understand its live streaming capabilities, I feel, with how much you guys dived in to test it in a lot of ways early on, right?
We like to do that in general whenever, especially YouTube is launching some sort of new feature or some sort of new product initiative, we want to be there at least early on to get a sense of how it's going to work, how you can optimize for it, and how it can make the creator experience better. Yep. Because one of the nice things that we really like about working with YouTube is just the fact that it's a very receptive platform. I mean, granted, they're always working on their own initiatives, and people have different opinions about that sort of thing. But they're always willing to accept feedback, and they're always right.
You guys, we didn't even really intro the podcast, okay? And already we're diving in.
I just got really excited.
I know. I
like
understand.
talking YouTube.
So this is the FBE Podcast, which we do every week now. Releases on Fridays, and but I think on SoundCloud and iTunes the day before, right? I think that's right. But we talk mainly about stuff going on around FBE as a company with very special guests and things like that. We're going to talk a little bit about that this time, but it's primarily going to be all about the algorithm and what is the algorithm. And I never know how to explain that quickly.
And generally, it's like this is an hour, and if it's algorithm hour, every moment that we take,
about
the algorithm, is taken away from the hour.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm trying to introduce. So most of you who listen to this podcast, you're affectionately called the 5% because we know that there's about 5% of the frequent FBE viewers that will bother with listening to an hour-long podcast.
Yes.
So we love you, 5%. But I have a feeling this one might drive in a little bit more than the 5%.
6% we're going for this time.
Here we go.
Matt.
Bring it on.
But if you're unfamiliar, we did just talk about it briefly, but this is MatPat, who I was looking back. I felt like, we've known you for a bit, but I realized, no, like you go back to like the first Office even the first time that you filmed with us. It's been many years of friendship and colleagueness and things like that.
I know, that's why I'm so surprised you made it such a big deal for me to come on the podcast, because you ask and thou shalt receive, guys. Like, I'm always eager to do things with you.
Well, it is appreciated. We don't expect, even YouTubers react. When we did the very first one, we thought it's going to be a one and done. Mm-hmm. Like, nobody's going to want to come by and be a part of this thing
over
ongoing.
100 episodes later.
Yeah. And so the whole experience of YouTubers React, or the idea of people wanting to partner up and do something together or anything, has been always a humble experience of being oh, really? And I think that's a good thing. You don't want to kind of get over the idea of being why wouldn't you come on? Instead, it's whoa, it's so cool. And even the whole company was really excited when we told them MatPat's actually going to be our first YouTuber guest on the podcast. It's what?
Well, no, I mean, and especially as everyone has gotten much more busy in the space, as large channels get offered more and more opportunities, it's harder and harder for them to carve off time. But for you guys, as much as I can, I'm always here for you.
Well, same to you.
We really appreciate that.
And I gotta say that some of my favorite videos that I've ever done online have actually been reaction videos with you guys across all the theory videos, and there's plenty of ones that I absolutely love. Reacting to the lava challenge, the slime video. There's been a lot of really fun stuff that I could never do on my own channels by the formats that we have that I'm able to do with you guys. And I just have a blast. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to kind of engage with that stuff.
Stop it.
You're right into
JC
my...
wants to vomit back there listening to all this love bombing.
So before we dive into what's going to be about an hour-long conversation about what is happening around YouTube when it comes to how you, the subscriber, get serviced videos on your homepage, your logged-in homepage, etc., in terms of understanding what you probably hear a lot of your favorite YouTubers having to talk about things have changed, and and hit the bell, and how are you going to find that I upload a new video? Is the sub box broken? I feel like all of us say usually not, but you don't really understand what the sub box is some of the time, etc. But before that, we're going to talk a little bit about some stuff around FBE, a little bit what's going on over with Matt's company. But I wanted to ask you a quick question.
Yeah, of course.
When you were first invited to do YouTubers React, can you walk us through what that was like, and then your first impressions of us when we met for the first time on that set?
Wow, put me in the... I thought I was already in the hot seat. Jeez. No, I mean, I gotta say, getting the invite to join YouTubers React was very much a rite of passage. I think there are certain rites of passage in the YouTube community. One of them is obviously the play buttons. You know, getting 100,000 play button, getting the million play button. Now the diamond play button, which is just so darn hard to get.
You're on your way.
I'm getting with time. With time, certainly gonna grind away at it. But the other ones are YouTube Rewind at the end of the year, and then of course being invited onto YouTubers React. And so getting that email was such a huge honor to begin with. I was so nervous. By the way, so incredibly nervous.
I wonder what the first episode was.
Epicac was one of them, right?
Ipecac was the very first one, yes. Reacting to a guy vomiting on the street. I was like, wow.
And I remember even when you were drinking it, there was something about like, just met you guys, and I'm just drinking this strange liquid.
Yeah, you're like, here's this.
The trust.
I mean, you didn't tell me what it was, but I'm like, this can't be Ipecac. This can't be dangerous at all. So I'm just gonna down it and make a statement
That's
right here
and
now.
That's a real classic episode. Like in the sense of like, I vividly remember being in that room, and then just because the reactions are so huge, because it was this very, oh my God, what's going to happen? But people were almost vomiting while watching the video. There was a lot of puking was happening. It was epic cack.
Wow, that's quality. No, but I remember the night before that actually a couple days before, I was studying everyone else's reactions to see what made a good reactor from a bad reactor, and kind of like...
There's a lot of variance inside of there.
There really is. And what sort of humor worked really well, what sort of... And it's, it was more for me to kind of like get familiar with the idea of reacting on camera.
Right.
Because...
Yeah, we kind of have like a thing that we help people to know, like, hey, you're going to be doing this thing.
I hate stopping this, but I don't want us to spend too much time on this. But it's also the type of thing that going even back then compared to now, you also were like you were much less frequently like on camera on your channel back then. And I remember even people saying that's what MatPat looks like was a big comment even back then, because it was much more just the voice on the channel, because you weren't doing these live streams and some of the other things over the years that you have now grown into doing. So it also was like kind of newer stuff for you being on camera.
Everybody knew that
way.
sexy voice.
Everyone knows that.
It was a big face reveal. And it was on YouTubers React.
We exposed you.
You did? Oh, no.
Okay, so we are going to jump in. The questions that you guys had for kind of the company, we're going to bank them for next week because we want to save time to go into like all of this geeky...
As in from last week.
All this geeky YouTube stuff. But Raf, you want to talk a little bit about some of the episodes that came out this week? And
really quick. And so I'm not even going to grab the laptop. Just really quick. One was the elders reacting to In a Heartbeat. And my God, that video generally is amazing. And it was a really interesting thing of putting it out, and the nonstop, everybody wants to see every generation reacting to this thing, but everybody was really positive. It was like 100,000 likes,
which we never get
in a day and a half or something. And the only things that maybe get that sometimes, but it takes like 2 days at least, is like YouTubers React. But it has to be like a huge episode. So it was just nuts. And so we're definitely like hearing the audience loud and clear that they want to see other generations reacting. We also heard that they want Dan and Phil to be reacting, and only Dan and Phil. But that's every video that we put out.
I was gonna say, isn't that every single
video we put out? There are so many comments about like, and it's like they're not What do you want us to do? And then they'll say, get them on Skype, like get them on, call them on FaceTime. It's like, but anyways, so just generally that was really cool. And then another one that was really fun was the laugh challenge this week on the React channel. It doesn't happen very often, but everybody got X'd out. Everybody laughed. And the audience really loves it when that happens. So do we. Because, everybody's sending in things from the audience, and then we're trying to pick the best ones and then hoping. But what was great is that everybody was looking back and leaving comments about like how they know all the episodes that's happened. And whenever,
which is so cool. They pay attention.
I do have
There's
to
been
grab
so many
because
episodes.
I wanted to be able to do this in case people wanted to know. So it's episode 7, 19, 30, 51 were the ones before this. But I didn't even know that except for the audience. And that's what's amazing is when you have those moments with your audience that like they're that tuned in, they care that much, they're invested in that way. Like I know one fan at one point sent in a letter that we read out at the company meeting that was a like 20 pages worth of spreadsheets that had cataloged every single person that's been in every single laugh challenge and how many they've won, how many they've lost.
It's incredible.
And they've cataloged the whole thing. It was just like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
So,
So
we'll reveal
people
here
always last week people were saying, spoil some stuff, tell us things that are coming up. So there's been a lot of reacception of late, and we can't always pull it off. But we did Kids React to Motley Crue not too long ago, and the drummer Tommy Lee of Motley Crue was just here filming to react to the reaction.
An awesome guy. He was like really fun, and and we've heard from the producers that he was a great reactor. Speaking of,
I think the producer even said, I think he joked with him afterwards saying, do you want to just be a regular adults reactor? Because you're like that good.
Yeah.
So that'll be really fun. That'll hopefully be out by the middle of the month. So that's exciting. What about on your side? Like, what's the latest or something that you're seeing from the audience from what you've been doing?
Wait, before we hop to that, I'm really curious. So who was the number one laugh challenge winner?
This was a while ago, and I'm not. I can
tell you on the YouTuber side, it is
Shane,
Captain Sparkles and Shane Dawson never lose.
Yeah.
Really?
Though Captain Sparkles, because I was just
he was
seeing
just
him,
in one again.
and that's I don't think it's come out yet. But he on his own channel finally cracked on something.
Oh,
really? And so he admitted to it to me, being like, "The pug got me." That's my Jordan impression.
That's pretty good. It's pretty good, Jordan.
Love Jordan.
But yeah, like speaking of back then, of like when you're like, I was looking at people how they reacted. I'm like thinking back, and I'm like, well, you could hate everything, Shane Dawson, like because very hard to please that man, love him, or like Harley, who totally let himself like open up in a different way that you weren't even used to seeing him, like different, amazing.
We got to get to the algorithm stuff, guys.
Sorry.
I know, but there's so many other cool things to talk about here, right?
There is.
You know who would win overall though? Dan and Phil. I mean, let's maybe if you guys included them in more episodes, they would totally be the winners.
But is there anything from your channel that has like been going on that was a cool little tidbit that you're like, oh man, that was so cool that you saw that? Or
actually, I'm really excited. I'm working on a theory right now of this underground game that I think might have the potential to be the next FNAF. Or it's kind of like FNAF meets DHMIS. So for those who are uninitiated, is Five Nights at Freddy's, which you guys have had multiple people react, like multiple episodes of reacting. Even. Right, exactly. As well as Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, which was another big one for you guys. Yeah. It's this web series called Petscop, where it's a simulated Let's Play of a made-up game from the PlayStation era. In the gaming community, there's like the lore of Ben Drowned, which is a haunted Legend of Zelda game, right? My friend got me this game, and weird things started to happen, and all of a sudden there's a kid who died who's haunting this cartridge. Well, this person has taken it upon himself to create like a faux game called Petscop that has actual like haunting elements to it. And so as he does this Let's Play, it's all these like weird scripted events happening. There's some sort of like weird hidden mystery underneath the surface of the game. So it's this weird fusion
of like
based, and it's video based,
but like a Let's Play.
Exactly,
right?
Yeah. And so it's
it's
really smart.
That.
It's a completely legitimately done like straight faced Let's Play of this guy who's like discovering weird elements, but obviously like the game is kind of scripted to have these weird things involved.
Sounds like it has creepypasta kind of elements, and like so it has all that that hits a lot of good layers.
It does. I'm really excited about it.
We'll have to check it out.
We'll hit it,
I've been
then
digging
the
deep.
reaction will come afterwards.
We'll let you get your theory out, then we'll do a reaction.
Great, perfect.
Also, I'm curious, like, what is the setup right now at your company? Like, is there...
This will be the last thing.
This will be the last thing, but we talk a lot about the company here, and people have a lot of fascination in terms of, like, what you've grown. So, like, what is kind of like, what does the company look like today?
Yeah, of course. So, we're still really small for the most part. We have a lot of freelancers, especially on the editing side. But we have, 6 full-time people? Me, Steph, and then someone on the production side, someone on the visual design side, and then like a permanent PA to help out, which has kind of odd jobs. We have 2 full-timers on the consulting side, and then everyone else is freelancing either as an editor, or we're currently looking and auditioning a couple of researchers to help out, just because YouTube
Makes
has
sense.
right.
Yes.
Just because YouTube has cranked up the frequency which we have to release videos in order to stay relevant, and doing videos that take 100 hours a week is just brutal. So we're kind of auditioning some people right now to hopefully kind of take some of the load and also expand out, because I'm only an expert in so many different franchises. So
Right.
if it expands us out,
you've
into
done
new
some
stuff.
stuff with like Wisecrack has been doing some stuff. So you're finding even some people being like other great production companies and studios out there that are making stuff online. Shout out to Wisecrack, they're awesome too.
Yeah.
To find ways to still make enough content
Exactly.
without being so in house and completely, etc.
Right. And creating partnerships that really work for everyone. Right. So yes, they help deliver a script or help me with research, but then we're able to kind of promote them back, or if it's freelancer, obviously payment and things like that. Or a lot of times, a lot of our writers will go on to produce kind of partner shows on the channel and kind of evolve up their own content and get spotlight in the channel, which then helps them grow their brands, and then they move off. So it works out that way. But at its core, it really boils down to, we have the production side of things, which are running, the game theory, film theory, and GT Live, and then we have the consulting half. And that's kind of the reason I bring that up, is because that really segues to the algorithm talk, right? See, I know where you guys are going, and it's really nice because on the consulting half, we're helping out different brands, other top channels, really navigate what it means to be successful in digital video, primarily on YouTube, yes, but also across the board. We consult with other social media platforms as well. And it is everyone from AAA game developers to movie studios to more traditional brands to YouTube channels that are some of the fastest growing right now. So
thanks to you guys.
Yeah, I like to think so, but I'm not gonna say that, but you can say it. But no, so we work with a wide variety of people, and then the cool thing about it too is we have our channels that we own and operate now, that we are able to run experiments on, look at the data around in and of
A/B
themselves.
testing, baby.
Exactly. Do A/B tests on everything from end screens to programming cadences, and then that informs kind of the stuff that we're doing on the consulting side. We're able to look at the data of those channels, and then that kind of informs what we're doing. And so it's this really cool synergistic cycle where the tests that we're running on one side inform the other, and the data that we're getting on the other side kind of inform the production side.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome. So something else we do on the podcast is we always come up with a hashtag that you then use in the comments to get a shout out the next time out, and it usually is at the end. Okay. Because it's like, oh, you listened all the way through. But I saw a good amount of comments that I think was a fun idea of like, you should put the hashtag somewhere in the middle, so then you actually listened maybe and didn't just skip. So I think we're gonna go hashtag algorithm. I feel like that makes sense.
Hashtag algorithm or algorithm hour.
Algorithm hour.
Yeah.
Hashtag algorithm hour. So if you really listen to this whole thing right now, you will know hashtag algorithm hour for the shout out. So we're gonna jump right into it, and I'm gonna kind of take a little bit of let me lead the conversation stance for the people that I consider to know the most about this, which is Rafi and Matt. When everyone asks me, I'm like, who knows? Well, MatPat and Rafi probably know more about this than anybody. So again, this is an overview, as I kind of wrote down for myself, of like talking about the algorithm, the recommendation engine that is that determines many things, like what will show up in search related videos, but most important to the creators on YouTube, it's how is it going to show up on the homepage when you log in, and are you actually being told, and in what order and in what placement in your recommendation section is the video being thrown right in front of your face or not, is what I would say is the most important thing right now, but could be argued. But so can we talk about the shift last year? Because all of this kind of really sprung up last year, where the recommendation engine had this big change, and that's where all the views across almost every channel just dipped. So I guess we'll just start there, and I'll back away.
Not views on every channel. The way that we talked with YouTube about it really early on, before YouTube was really going like, there's a problem. We were like, listen, please, there's like something going really weird on YouTube right now with all the data that we are doing at the company all the time. And but so depending on what even YouTube's argument was, but some people are doing fine. It's like, that's not really the point. It's like, of course, no matter what, you're going to have some people that are on major rises. And the example I was always using was Liza Koshy. Like, I was just like, Liza Koshy is doing fine. I understand that she's on the rise, just like Fred or Shane Dawson or Roy William Johnson or Annoying Orange. Like, all this time, there's always going to be somebody on the up. It's more of the people that have been stabilized and such. There's something going on, and we don't know what it was that has gone on and gone on and gone on to finally, I think, center out into two things. Tell me if I'm wrong around the watch time becoming so much more important than retention time or anything else in the algorithm, along with the idea of the recommendation engine on your homepage or wherever you are, recycling, showing new things much faster than holding on to content for a long time like it used to.
Yep.
Was those pretty much the two main changes?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and it probably bears kind of us talking briefly to those who aren't initiated.
I'm going to note for myself to explain what's watch time versus retention time.
Retention time versus watch time. So do you want to take that?
No, you please.
So the way that I define this is retention time is the overall percent that you watch the video, right? So if it's 5 minutes, if it's 10 minutes, doesn't matter. It's, did I watch 70% of it? Did I watch the whole thing? Did I click off in the first couple seconds and only watch like a percent or two of it? And that was a large factor in kind of the early days when YouTube switched over to more length of time being watched of videos.
Hoping for people to watch more and surfacing those things to people to hope that they'll stay on the website as long as possible.
Exactly. So, and the thing I always like to say is YouTube has a problem, right? Which is they need a scalable way, an algorithmic way to determine what makes good content from bad content. And when you're programming a computer, how do you do that? And it used to be based on views because it was like, hey, if this video organically got
it's good,
a bunch of views and a bunch of shares.
People to watch.
Yeah, it got people to watch. It must be good. People are sharing it on Facebook, what have you. But quickly, people learned to game the system through click farms, boob thumbnails, React girls, things like that. And so
Reply girls.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, sorry, not React girls.
Who are they?
Is that not a format that you guys have? What channel have I been watching? So then they switched it. They're like, hey, maybe this isn't a good way to determine good versus bad, so let's switch it to retention time. And hey, if someone is watching a video for longer, that must mean it's meeting their expectations. It must be retaining them for a while. They're enjoying it. They're not clicking off, so that must be a good video.
Right. In a lot of ways, that's actually a good thing. Like
yeah,
that
absolutely.
Yes, it ends up making things harder to find that are like, and premium content and short form content, animation, et cetera, are very hard to get surfaced because how does that end up finding its way when there's things that are so long? But it also then helps against things like clickbait. It helps against covers of music videos trying to be looking like they're the real music video, different things that it does then end up weighing something better than something else. It does work algorithmically.
So they made the switch to the watch time from retention time and other factors like views.
Right, and watch time difference.
Yeah, so watch time, by contrast, is the pure number of minutes being watched, whether that's on an individual video or across an entire channel, right? So now all of a sudden you can already see that if YouTube is optimizing for pure watch minutes, the amount of minutes that this person has sat in front of the computer and watched these videos, you're going to optimize for longer form videos that get people to sit there and watch, or formats that automatically get people to watch long compilations of things, right? So this is why you saw a huge influx of Vine compilations, top 100 Vine compilations or whatever, where, people are going to watch it because every couple seconds there's going to be a new cut, there's going to be a new joke, there's going to be a new punchline, and it's hard for people to click off of something that frenetic, and even though the first 3 Vines didn't catch me, the 4th one did, and I'm hooked for another couple seconds. That's also why top 10s around that time had a huge explosion, because humans by nature are more inclined to click on something with the number 10 in it, and it gives us a finite story. It's a long form format that is broken down into 10 shorter segments. Everyone wants to see what number 1 is, and so those drove huge amounts of watch minutes. And of course, that's also when you started to see, a resurgence of long form blogs, long form vlogs,
long form unboxing videos, long
exactly.
form cosplay for children with Elsa Spider-Man,
right?
And different things that are just really long. Could be watched in many countries, and that way you're not even barred by only being a US thing. You could be very like Mr. Bean-like or something.
And so the impact of that then becomes, I think you can see in a lot of content, ourselves included, where now we've increased the length of our videos. If you compare it to 2 years ago to now, every episode is usually close to 10 minutes or over 10 minutes.
And
when
it
in the
doesn't
past,
have to do with getting ads.
No.
It has to do with watch time.
Yeah.
That's the second ad is nice, but it's all about needing people to watch and making the episode. So if it's like, do they know it? Or if it's like, guess that, these things have like 5 sections to them or 7 sections to them. And you just stretch those out and people want to get to watch more. And it's not like they're not like being entertained by it. It's, if anything, we've always felt that we needed to be shorter for the longest time online. I remember back when Benny and I used to have a thing back being early viral video creators, we were like, this can't be longer than a minute if we want to go the most viral.
Right.
And then it became 2 minutes, and 2 minutes was okay. And when we would get to like 2:06, we'd be like, absolutely not. And this was before YouTube, before everything. And we were like, nope, it won't do well. And then once it was YouTube, and once an audience was truly there, all of a sudden there were all these people that were like, can you make it longer? And we're like, oh, they're there. We don't have to like find the virality anymore. And all of a sudden that's, ever since then, for 8 years or whatever, it's been, content's been able to get longer on YouTube.
So if
and
we're
now
to-
it's kind of for a different
So
reason.
if we're to a place where you need to make longer videos, it's obviously not going to be the only answer. Make a video that's long, and then you still can be like, well, I'm making videos that are 15 minutes long, and I'm still, no one's getting recommended it. So do we want to transition to the second part of like how things are not staying as long, and I guess even view velocity in the like when you upload and things like that. So what are the other factors beyond the length of your video?
Yeah. Well, and real quick to kind of just cap what you had just said about virality also changed, right? So this was also at the time when other platforms were being very strict about their own viewership, right? So Twitter launched video, Facebook started launching video, things like that. And so even though videos were getting shared on Facebook, those posts were seeing absolutely zero reach
Facebook,
because
what they deprioritize those in your news feed
Exactly.
because they weren't uploaded directly
correct.
to Facebook.
They will. Everyone wants someone to stay, that individual viewer to stay on their platform watching as long as possible. The other thing that merits mentioning real quick before we talk about kind of that faster refresh rate is the reason why YouTube did this, I think. And this is just a theory. It's never been confirmed by anyone there. But it's a theory.
Yeah, it's like,
And I saw that smile creeping onto your face. Just a theory.
I just imagine like your little character, little view that you pop up with a little smirk. That's what I think.
So the reason why I suspect is, even though retention time worked really well for getting people to watch videos on YouTube and had a lot of good for the platform, ultimately YouTube is trying to train people to watch YouTube like they do TV. Turn it on, sit back and watch for hours on end. Sit back and watch as long as possible. And every time a video, and YouTube is different than any other platform online because it's a decision-based platform. You know, it's not a news feed where I'm just scrolling through my Twitter feed or my Facebook feed and, you know, scrolling up. YouTube, every video that I choose to watch is something that I actively have to choose to click on.
Which always blows my mind that many people really do decide to click. In like when you get a channel that's working and you have so many people within a day that you're like, that many people actually clicked on this thumbnail. That's why you got to make some good thumbnails.
Right, yeah, it is. It makes a huge difference. It's the front door of your video, and if it's not good, you could have the Citizen Kane of YouTube and no one will ever see it. But it is one of those things where every time someone has to make a choice, you lose people, right? Yeah. So, you know, I watched a YouTuber's react. YouTube autoplay might give me something that might interest me. There might be something in the recommended algorithm that might interest me, but maybe not. And so every time I have to make a new decision on the platform, I have the opportunity to leave. And I think what YouTube did in changing it to this long form watch minutes algorithm is it forces people, like people are much more likely to sit there
Less
and watch
decisions.
it's fewer decisions with overall more watch minutes on YouTube, right? So if I'm sitting there watching a 15-minute long vlog, that kept me for 15 minutes as opposed to a 3-minute long comedy sketch or a 5-minute long reaction video or what have you.
They probably A/B tested that and saw that those making the 3-minute retention times did not keep people as long, even though people loved that show that might have been 3 minutes. It's not ever going to match the other. What did you ask, Ben?
I'm talking about view velocity in terms of like talking about like how, because it's not just going to be that you have a popular channel that you're subscribed to and they made a 15-minute video, hence it'll go to your recommendation page. Not for sure, right?
Yeah, I'm interested in what you have to say. This is one of our biggest things that we have here and that we teach the producers and what we have to always be thinking about within that first minute, 5-minute, 10-minute, and first hour is going to then not just help in the beginning and see, I'm interested in what you're going to say, but also then what how it's going to rank in SEO overall. When you search on YouTube, search engine optimization on YouTube, it's going to help what's ranking there. It's going to help with the related video. It's
Most
showing
important
up on the right.
in theory.
Look at it. We can all do it.
But that first hour seems to set it all up.
We'll set it all up, and also it's going to potentially tell the recommendation engine subscribers of this channel seem to be clicking on this, sticking around. We're going to recommend it to more of this channel subscribers because of the behavior in the first hour.
Yeah, but what have you been diving in for that, and how it surfaces to people versus not on their homepage?
Yep, absolutely.
When you're subscribed.
Of course.
Yeah.
So to what you said earlier about kind of this faster refresh rate on YouTube, right? So YouTube also wants people to constantly be watching YouTube and finding something that interests them, right? And so part of all of these changes have been to make sure that videos have a much shorter lifespan than they used to. A lot of channels, I'm assuming yours, definitely Game Theory and Film Theory, were really solidly built.
Library,
library content,
huge,
suggested video content was a huge reason why we were able to sustain ourselves, because those would get tremendous amounts of suggested video traffic. When all of these changes started to happen, that went away. Or at least was greatly diminished in a lot of...
I think what we saw was a diminish of the latest videos. That was the main thing. And then, yes, there was some lowering of others, but I think that for various reasons of like our SEO and channel page ranking, just generally for being on the platform for so long and having such virality, like so many of the episodes that we've done. And so the channel overall has this insane SEO ability because...
But newer content does not get the view rates
so I think
that it
those
used to.
old
But the old ones still, I think,
holding
rank
strong.
well.
Good.
Like
Okay.
Elders React to Eminem is still hanging strong with the Eminem search, you know? But yes, anything now, we all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it was like 2 days and then views stop unless it then does get into SEO somehow or it's being shared a lot.
Well, the other thing for you guys to remember, though, is you're talking Eminem, right? The reason why your Eminem video is working well is, think about Eminem. All of his stuff is short form. It's all 2-minute, 3-minute, 5-minute long songs. You guys have I'm assuming that's a slightly longer video.
Right. So it's beating it out a little bit.
And it's beating it out. Right. So from a watch minutes perspective, that video is able to beat
because
out.
of that too, right?
Exactly. You are able to beat out Eminem. And so, YouTube wants to make sure that your video is being suggested against all of those Eminem videos because you're the video that's going to win out on a watch minutes perspective.
But across the site, no doubt, this was a huge thing. And like anybody that didn't have like that ability where like all of our old videos have been featured on like 50 different websites and like all this different stuff that Google likes. Other people like, the videos of theirs all of a sudden for various reasons, from watch time to whatever, fell off from when they were getting so many views on them. And then everything else started beating it out.
Yeah. So going back to kind of the homepage and especially the logged in homepage, what YouTube does in kind of that first hour, and it seems second hour, it's unclear where exactly it cuts off. At this point, we're seeing a lot of kind of like uptick in the second hour and then the drop off. Is they'll release that video to a subset of your subscribed viewership, right?
JC, you've heard us talk about this.
Yeah, you're right. Oh, his mind's being blown as we talk. Yeah, it's kind of like a test case. Again, YouTube is constantly
testing.
A/B testing stuff, right? And so it wants to see, okay, how effective is this video at getting this channel's existing subscribers to click?
And even the ones that already are, like, you have tons that have now already been decided that they don't watch you anymore.
Exactly, yes.
It's the ones that still do watch you.
Yeah, the
that
still active
They're
subscribers.
trying to see if those people that you have left, that they haven't deemed worthless from your subscriber base,
That's
how
the thing,
many
no
of
one
them?
listening to this is any of those people.
Right.
But this is why we'll run into viewers, and I'm curious if you had a similar experience, where there'll always be an occasional viewer that will come up and say, "Man, I love your channel. Why have you not uploaded in months?" And it's because the algorithm, because their
Doesn't
own
suggest
behavior
it.
for too long, stopped watching the channel, that it will literally get caught in a loop where they will never be recommended the video ever again on their homepage, and they don't know that the subscription area exists.
Right, exactly. So unless you have that one exceptional video
That pops it back
that
up,
pops
right,
everyone
yeah.
up, for us on our channel, it's a Five Nights at Freddy's theory, which is what
That every once
reactivates
in a
most
while, you're
people.
just like, we gotta just do it.
Right, because now all of a sudden what that does is it gets it tells YouTube this is a video that everyone's going to click on. So that remaining fan base that is still very active in our subscribership, make sure that you share this as widely as possible and get as many people to click on it and watch it, and tell the algorithm, yes, I'm still interested in this channel. Yes, I still want to receive notifications and I want to click. But if you, in the event that you do have a poor thumbnail, a lackluster title, all of that stuff is automatically, immediately affecting, hey, YouTube says we serve this to your subscribers, not a high percentage of them clicked, so we're going to diminish the actual visibility of it, and it's going to die on the vine.
And this is why
that's the thing. It die depending, like, because we tend to see, like, we do get a lot of people that do go to the subscription feed.
Of course, yep.
So there are a good amount of people that go there, but it's pretty much like, I'm interested maybe depending on the person, but for us, I think it's pretty much half and half unless something's going, like, doing really well on the homepage. So it definitely still will get, like, viewership, but it's very specifically to that homepage where the idea of you being able to get really surface to a lot of your subscribers is the hope that it's just doing so well, and you better do really well in the first hour. Otherwise, you're done.
Well, and this is why
forever.
I think, and I want to talk about this later, but I'll bring it up now. Like, this is why when you're a channel like ours and many others that do a lot of different things, even for you, because it depends on what is the topic of your theory video, it ends up becoming very difficult to fully accurately predict things anymore beyond certain things you know are going to get at least a certain base. But like, it's why we talked about this last week on the podcast. Kids React as a format is the least popular by so much more than it used to be, because when it used to get served to more of the subscriber base, if they see it a lot, there's a higher percentage chance that they will click to a degree. But now, because the really engaged audience are not that age, if the topic's not right, they'll, even some of the 5% admitted, I don't watch as much Kids React. We had a Teens Reactor on the podcast that used to be on Kids React admitting that she never watches Kids React. So that happening has resulted in that becoming sometimes a half the views of any of the other formats, when just 2 years ago, that couldn't be the case. All the videos kind of were weighted equal, but not anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, I think, one of the biggest struggles and challenges for anyone working on YouTube at this point is either you have to have a really solid understanding of your programming slate and your programming cadence, where, hey, we still want to reach out and do new formats, cover games or franchises that might get us new audience.
People don't know who they are yet, and you want to help them, but you know your audience isn't going to click on it as much.
Right.
And that also then, if it underperforms, it makes the whole channel and your other videos underperform too.
Which YouTube will never fully admit to, but we know there's collateral damage from putting out this podcast on the channel because of just how it's getting a 12th of the views. It's definitely impacting other videos.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, it's definitely impacting, programming slates for us, where we have a very strict order of things, where for every 2 or 3 experimental videos, I need to go back to kind of one of our wheelhouse franchises of Five Nights at Freddy's, Mario, Pokemon, things like that I know a large percentage of the subscribership are always really eager for. And then that allows me another 2 weeks or so to do like a Petscop or, a Death Stranding, or some of these smaller indie titles that are exposing kind of these new titles to other people, spreading the good word, trying to find new eyeballs who are interested in that sort of content and bring them into the fold. But it's a very strict cadence that you have to follow at this point.
And I'm sure you see it. We see it too, of like, you can see when you've gone a little too long and you start seeing the snowball. Like we call it either the self-fulfilling prophecy to YouTube, when we say like, it's just gonna, if we keep putting these out, it's just, even though these people want to watch the stuff, because they'll be like, no, they're just not wanting to watch you. It's like, no, it's that it just stops sending it. And then even people that loved you just don't get sent anymore because they decided not to watch one, or the algorithm decides, because of the smaller test group, that even though these are all super fans, every single one of them are super fans, but because these super fans in the first 5 minutes, half of them decided not to click on this one just for whatever reason. All these other super fans don't even get the opportunity,
because they happen to live in another time zone. By the time they logged in, the recommendation engine won't recommend to them, which is something that YouTube also is not fully ready to admit, where they still will call every subscriber a snowflake, and that if there is a super fan that watches every video of yours, it will know, and they will still get sent it, and we don't think that's true.
Did I tell you what our test is? I think I might have mentioned that we're like, we were going to do it a while ago. We felt like maybe we don't have to. Now we're like, again, after we did go through a little bit of a time period where we were testing some more things out, trying this and trying that, and we started seeing the self-fulfilling prophecy, or the snowball effect. We started seeing this problem. We then were like, you know what, we really do have to prove this thing. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to build super fan channels.
Okay.
So what those channels are going to do, it's going to be like 5. and we're going to do different things with each of them to some degree of like
that's cool.
one that's subscribed to only two channels, just FBE and React.
Yep.
Then we'll have a channel that has 10 subscribed channels, 20 subscribed channels, 100 subscribed channels. Each one of these channels, all they will do, each of them, they'll only watch FBE and React. So when an episode comes out, within the first 5 minutes, they're going to watch the entire episode from beginning to end. Perfect retention time, perfect watch time, and we want to see if every video after we do that for a month or something, then when we release an episode like the podcast, will it not show up on the homepage? And it won't. But YouTube doesn't believe that right now.
I'm incredibly excited to see the result.
Yeah, I know, right?
Because I actually, it's funny that you say this, because I actually did a similar experiment.
I do it with my own account, and it messes up.
Yeah, right. It's if it's a personal account. And if you're doing it on your own, like it's hard to maintain kind of that cadence and kind of that
versus
level
it being
of
like a
regimentedness.
job.
Yeah, right. In
Someone's
order,
job here is going to be to make all those channels. You realize that,
of course, and to watch those videos. But no, I did a similar experiment. I think it was 3 years ago. So obviously the results would be drastically different at this point. But I was very curious. If you do hardcore watch every single video that this channel uploads, and then all of a sudden you stop watching it, how long before YouTube stops sending you those subscription or how long before YouTube stops kind of serving those to you on homepage and suggested? And it had a variable length based on frequency of upload and this and that. But I'm sure nowadays it's a much faster cadence, and I'm sure that it is much more selective over the types of formats that are being served out. So like you said, the podcast.
Tests are like so geeky, like just because I love whenever I hear any YouTuber, like recently Boogie, love him so much, and he was just going through some tough times because of his surgery and everything. But it's like you hear things, and I want to be like, oh, why can't YouTube build a simulator? Should build an algorithm simulator.
Like this could be the app that like works, like for like some of the gamers will make games. No, we make the algorithm.
YouTubers like with the real
I love simulators.
algorithm.
My whole thing with video games over my life, I have
simulators.
no time for them at all. But I'm a sports fan, but I don't like playing sports games. But I love the simulators. So I would simulate 120 baseball seasons when I was a teenager, just using the computer.
You would.
Anyway,
That's amazing.
But like when like
great.
Boogie like mentions like, okay, I got to make sure that I'm making my videos. Like I banked a bunch of videos while I'm going to be at surgery and before I get better and everything. And so you basically have this whole situation that I want to be like, just like you just said about 3 years ago, I'd want to understand truly, like, when does the fall off start to happen? All these things that are hypothetical because nobody's doing these tests, and who would want to? Right. It's not like all of a sudden you're going to go, you know what, for our consultant business, we're going to stop uploading for 3 weeks and just see what happens. No, you would never be able to do that.
Right.
But I wish that we could see each of these kinds of things to actually not just see what happens, but I think it's the same thing that you do. It's what we do. It's like trying to help YouTube understand, which is helping the community, because all we do with all this information is like every time I have YouTubers react, we talk with everybody about these things that they don't know about. And like we have phone calls with people trying to help them to understand what's going on with their channel. So these kinds of things are like, I wish that we could know all those tests and all these ways, but man, who has the time? And there's no way to do it.
Right. It's hard, but that's a big reason why we're so passionate about the consulting half of what we do is, it doesn't earn nearly as much money as what we're doing on the production side, but it's one of those things that we feel is really important. Because digital video, and especially YouTube, is very complicated. It's very hard, and no one has the time. If you're an independent creator, you don't have the time to run those tests. You don't have the time to like run back, or maybe you don't even have the knowledge to go back into your analytics.
What are you supposed to be collecting? What does your data even mean? Even that by itself, the amount of creators that I've walked through their analytics suite, even on the very basics of ways, they go, oh my God, because they just didn't know how to read it.
Right, because we're creative types, and very few are actually data-driven or able to kind of see the numbers, see the charts, and translate
math.
them.
Were you a math kid?
Of course, I'm a huge math nerd.
Yeah,
have you seen my channel? I mean, seriously. I just calculated that in Mario Maker, you can have like 10 to the 12,431 power levels total made.
God.
So yeah, super math nerd.
Awesome.
But no, and so like, and same thing with brands too. We see this time and time again when we're working with different companies who are like, hey, we recognize YouTube is a valuable platform. We recognize this is where the future of entertainment is. And we're investing millions of dollars into programming, but it doesn't perform.
Right.
Why?
Yeah.
And we're able to hop in and help them, hopefully help them with kind of navigating that space, understanding the platform better. And, in our opinion, all ships rise, right? We're empowering creators of all scales and all sizes to create better and get more returns off of this platform.
And I think that's still just the thing of like how to get the word out. There's always those things because we have this good situation with YouTubers React where we do end up with a wide swath of creators that we then try to do the best we can. And you've been experiencing it too, but it's not usually this stuff of like, can we in 20 minutes or so try to update them, make them understand, hear what their problems are, to both voice it back to YouTube, but also to be like, okay, let me help you, let me realize. And there's only so much time in the day to really help on an ongoing basis, but they don't even know. Yep. And so many channels start dying off and they are saying the wrong reasons as to why. Yep. They don't even know how to pivot. And some of them could save their channel if they just started doing very basic of things, which the main thing I suggest to everybody now is that first hour. And like, it sucks depending on what your life is, but you need to be there when the video goes live so you can be at the ready before it's too late to try to change the title or try to make a change, because it will potentially make all the difference in the world for many videos that you upload.
Yeah, one of the processes that we've started here is that like there is something called live coverage, which is like some people being on it, like a producer that was working on that episode, and then somebody from the social team that like, you know, the video is going live, making sure that's all going right, just with the video going live and all that. But then you have some like dealing with the idea that is it performing okay, and having a moment to basically sit there. And also now this is tied into the number one actual reason of doing it is to like comment back to the fans and like be there. And that's been the most fun aspect of it, of being like, oh, we're there for the first 30 minutes, like replying to everybody. But it's like, okay, if we're seeing the underperformance and we know what underperformance looks like compared to other episodes, we literally change the thumbnail right then and there. We change the title right then and there. And we've literally seen, we have things, and we even like are very proud of it at the company whenever we change it. And then we're able to literally look at the minute by minute, the real time analytic, that if anybody is a YouTuber that watches, like if you're not utilizing your minute by minute real time in the analytics, I love that thing so much, even though right now it's glitching and we're working with YouTube to be like, they don't even realize, and you gotta love YouTube, but like right now it keeps, it gets to like the 40-minute mark and then it figures itself out finally of how many views you were having the whole time. But it used to be that at the 10-minute mark, it was every time at the 10-minute mark, you would be able to see what your episode's looking like and how many views it's getting per minute. Yep. Now it takes like 40 minutes sometimes for it to then go, oh yeah, at the 10-minute mark, it was actually making this. And so it goes all the way up. But we have done it where like, we're at the 13-minute mark, we switch something, we get a new thumbnail, and then all of a sudden, boom. And you literally see it happen, and it changes the entire scope where you could go, wow, this is probably gonna get 400,000 views or whatever, and then all of a sudden changes to being like, nope, you can already imagine and know that it's gonna be getting 1 million. Right. And it's crazy that like, if we just didn't make that change in that moment and being there when the video goes live and watch how it's doing, but I think people don't know how to watch, like watching your likes per minute and watching your views per minute gives you that idea of knowing what you usually get versus now and going, maybe something's wrong, maybe something's different.
Is there anything else on your side that you notice something's wrong?
Well, the other crazy thing about this whole situation is, and a reason why people aren't watching those sorts of metrics is because it's directly counter to what YouTube is telling them, which I think is the other challenge of this situation, where we will go into plenty of meeting rooms, especially with brands who have had YouTube's attention. We had a trip out to New York a week ago, and you know, they've been kind of under YouTube's care for a while, but they hired us on because they were interested in what we had to say. And the recommendations that we're making in the room, they're like, YouTube has told us the exact opposite of that, but we are inclined to trust you because you guys, you know, this is your livelihood. You're watching the data all the time. But stuff around and very specifically this example of YouTube has told us, don't change the thumbnail or title within the first 24 to 48 hours because it'll throw off everything in the system. And we're like, that couldn't be, I'm like, and we look them straight in the eye and we're like, that couldn't be further from the truth.
Right. If anything, sometimes like there's been the opposite theory, which has been that it actually resets things to some degree. Right. That some people have thought that like, oh, it kind of like tries it again in the system to a little bit more. And I don't know, can't really say anything to that. But because we've seen results, I sometimes think like, oh man, I made this change even 3 hours after or something sometimes. And all of a sudden you see it then working then. And so I've kind of gone, does it? Because it's kind of given up on itself, and maybe sometimes it does to just give it a little bit of a push. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's the challenge of it is these experts from YouTube are going out and spreading misinformation about their own platform, which is tough. And I understand why it's happening, because at this point, you know, we've been doing it for years and we've been running experiments for years. You guys are the same. And so we have an understanding of the platform, the way it's evolved, the way the viewers interact with it, the way the algorithm acts in a way that someone who was just hired on by YouTube a couple months ago in their audience development department doesn't have that level of understanding, or are being fed things that have existed within the company for years. And at this point, YouTube is, yes, it's an algorithm, but it's a neural network that teaches itself. And it's a neural network that is teaching itself based on watch minutes. And when watch minutes are all well and good, but when all YouTube creators and brands are getting paid off of views, and that's the metric that, you know, the upper management is judging the success or failure of something on, those matter. Like, those are ad impressions. And it's one of those things that, sure, this might be the neural networks that is optimizing for watch minutes, but we need to optimize for minute-to-minute views.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
and it's the thing that YouTube itself over the years, and sometimes they'll admit this in various ways, not in what you're describing, but they'll talk about how they will sometimes say things like, well, you guys do know the platform in this way better than we do. Not everything, but certain elements of it, because things get built with data in mind for YouTube as a whole, not for the creator community.
Correct.
And that's also something to always remember. Every decision is irrelevant to the creator community. So you have to figure out, how does this change apply? And so even I remember talking to them in the beginning of all of this, where they were making claims that like nothing really changed, and they didn't understand that the recommended part of the homepage had been there for so long, and you've now been defaulted to that homepage for so many years, that there is a gigantic multi-millions of people that have never known a YouTube that didn't have that as their homepage, and they legitimately think that's their subscription area because that's all they've ever known. And YouTube did not realize that this change was going to so drastically change audience behavior, because that was where it was, and they still are a little teeter-tottery about it, but I think they've realized, we are seeing now that across the board, everyone's recommended views went way down for the channels that were having this problem because of what the change that happened.
That was what we, like, one of the things that we were talking about back then, and I guess it's still to this day, it's just like, but there was a thinning out period almost, that like if you were Liza Koshy, like just gonna keep
you can use
everything
others besides
She's
her.
great. I love Liza.
If you're a Liza Koshy, you're going to have this moment that when that happened, your amount of people that were coming directly to you and obsessed with you and watching every video that you're putting up, like they're always going to be trying to wait for that, and they're waiting for that moment, and because it's so like the thing right now. Anybody that was more on this level of going, oh wait, these are people that are just used to going to their homepage to watch this person's content, or people that were even smaller and like not as much. There was this balance of how obsessed of viewers do you have, and how shareable
and how many years can you sustain that? And that's why a lot of legacy channels have had a lot of trouble in this, and that we were hit very hard in the very beginning. There was almost 30% dip in views. So when you have a company like that, it was a massive overnight moment that became like, okay, we have to start figuring out everything that we can, and we fully changed all of our production models in that moment too, because for us it became topicality became even faster than and we had to literally by a third. You've seen it now. You film and you're 2 days later, a video's up, and
it used to
week.
not be that way.
No, I remember you guys. The quickness with your turnaround at this point is unbelievable.
And that's a testament to the team.
Yeah.
They're incredible that, like, you know, we ripped out parts of the system and just had them like kind of go for it a bit more, and it's still been amazing. They're doing
So what do you do if you are a viewer? Like, you know, what you're listening to this right now, like what can you do to help support all of your favorite creators to help the algorithm, and what is it that they should be doing?
We have a new one that we're going to talk to the audience about, but like, have you done things other than the bell that has been things to be like, how do you try to tell them this information to be like, be a better
I'll add
YouTube
to this too, be a better subscriber, but it's also the irony of some of my conversations with YouTube recently have been, you make all these changes, that's fine, you're always going to do that, but you've literally never given a creator new tools in years to ever do anything to get the communication out to your audience, except by making a video that is now going to be buried by the new recommendation engine to update them on.
The community tab, guys. The community tab.
I have a lot of thoughts around the community tab. Good ideas, but anyway. So what can subscribers do?
I mean, I think first and foremost, and probably the biggest thing that any subscriber can do, is just getting used to checking the channel page. And being familiar with, like, hey, if I go
with the same people, it's ridiculous.
if I go to the Fine Brothers channel page, I will see that they are upload, because they, as smart, intelligent creators, are keeping their channel page relevant to me. And if they have new uploads, they're going to be front and center on that channel page, and it's going to be neatly organized in a way that I can easily navigate to my favorite series, and I can see, was there a new upload? Yes, there was. No, there wasn't. Great. Like that already is a huge difference. Yes, you can ring the bell and say, I'm opting into all notifications and this and that, but you're still dependent on algorithms and getting YouTube functioning in a proper way to get you served content. Far and away, the single best way to make sure that you're following all your favorite creators and showing them the support and love that you have for years. Just get used to checking the channel page. It's one YouTube search away.
And now he'll tell you the plan that we have.
So we're going to be putting in the front. So you guys, the 5%, will be seeing this soon enough on a video near you. But we're going to only do this a couple times because we know that it can be annoying, and we're trying to figure out how to deal with that. But we're going to put it on a couple of episodes that are high performing episodes, in order, because we're afraid of putting this kind of thing that's a minute and a half or something in the beginning of a video that is a not as high performing, no doubt, video, because then we know that it'll get buried.
Right. Yep.
So we're going to put it on like probably a laugh challenge video and things like that. And it will be like, hey, if you want, just like skip the first minute and a half of this video, just click past it. But we're going to specifically even tell them, and we go a little bit farther than what you said, because like in the sense of what if we aren't updating properly the way that they want, because we get a lot of people that we upload 14 videos a week now.
Sure.
So it definitely gets like a lot, and people don't end up being able to find whatever. And even the way that we do curate our pages aren't necessarily that way. So we're telling them that, like, are going to explain a little bit about the homepage recommendation engine, just a little bit. And then we're going to just be like, hey, what you should do is go to FBE.com/
videos.
Isn't it? Oh, no, youtube.com/FBE/videos to go to the video page specifically, because then you even see what things came out in the order that they came out. We can't mess with that. It's like fully no doubt going to be that page. And we're telling them, like, bookmark that if you're on your laptop or your desktop. If you have an iPhone, use Safari and make it use it as make it a app icon. And I then found out on Android, which I don't have, you use Chrome, I think, and they have the same kind of thing that make it go. It's a button that will bring you right to it, and you can have it as an app button on your homepage on your phone. It's
great.
And just trying to be like, if you want to do that for all your favorite people. We're basically creating something for YouTube, even though we try to tell them things like, can you please make a shelf, like one of the things on your homepage that like show you the recommended or show you things you've watched recently. They have the different shelves, rows.
Right. Why wouldn't they just have one for subscriptions? Underneath recommended, down on the bottom, but still visible.
It's either that it would be all your subscriptions, and no doubt they'll be in there, or like let you choose 10 of your favorite people, and they'll live in that shelf, and you can choose where that shelf is. So instead, we're trying to be like, okay, if you're gonna create 10 icons on your phone, I guess, for like your favorite people, and click through them, because that's the best way you can support to watch every video when it comes out. And if you could watch it right when it comes out, that's the best. But now this type of system, and YouTube, if it wasn't so confusing to users, this type of system would be what everybody kind of does. If they knew, they would go to their favorite people's places to go watch their stuff. But they don't so many people don't realize that that's how YouTube works. Even YouTubers don't. No, that's how it works.
And actually, it's funny because that's the way I don't engage at all on YouTube. I'll respond to fans, and I love that. I respond to comments, but when it comes to like actually subscribing to channels, I am a habitual non-subscriber, but I will always go to search for Fine Brothers, for Screen Junkies, for all my favorite channels, and that's just the habit that I've gotten into over the years.
You're a low percentage.
Yeah, but I'm super low. I don't use a subscription feed, anything. Person, like the only time I've ever really subscribed to channels is to either show my support as a fellow YouTuber, or like as a test case to see how the algorithm operates just from a consulting side of things.
I'm like personally, and then I've given this to the rest of the company, but I'm subscribed to around
You're insane.
1,500 channels.
Wow.
And it's to keep up with, because of React and the things that we cover trend-wise. It's like there's not, we've actually gone out and looked at, and I wish we just had so much money to like hire people to build me the engine, like surfacing engine, to show me things that I want to see that are popping on YouTube in various ways. But we've tried even like different like free tests or trials of all the different ones that are out there to be like looking at how surfacing Facebook, what's popular, or Twitter and Instagram. They all just don't work that well. Have never been able to find one. And YouTube particularly, none of them have YouTube on them. And so it's been like, it's just literally the research is to scroll through and just look.
All right. So before I go to questions from the fans about the algorithm. Is there anything that you don't think we cover that we probably should make sure that we get out in the world about this algorithm?
Well, so we've talked a little bit about the fan experience. To me, for any creators who are listening, in that 5% or 5% spread the good word to 6%, we said for this episode.
That's right.
That 6% spread the good word to your favorite creators and get the message out. Just be more aware of your programming cadence. It's interesting because every small change that YouTube makes on the algorithm ultimately dictates the type of content that you as a viewer are seeing and the content and the channels that succeed, right? So right now you're seeing channels that are having explosive growth rates, but they have to be hyper-focused channels.
Yeah.
The fidget spinner trend. If you're a fidget spinner channel and that's all you do, you're going to see a huge amount of growth during that trend, but as soon as it's over, you die. And that's, I think, one of the scariest things right now is people who are coming through the ranks are going to have a really hard time of creating sustainable channels in the long term because YouTube is so much about, did it activate people? Is it super serving that same fan base every single video, every single time? And
early on, that makes it a very difficult ability to figure out how to build a sustainable popular channel unless you find the one format. And that would be my advice, I guess, in a way, is like, that is what YouTube probably likes the most right now, is if you do the same kind of content every video.
Every time.
But that's where you got to be specific, though, because if it's just a fidget spinner video versus a formatted thing that for the time being, it's fidget spinner focus, but it's the type of thing that you can jump to the next trend with, and people still love that format and love you.
Right.
Then you're in a better position.
Well, that's it's that love you element that really makes the difference, right? Are you specifically a channel creator who is personable enough and getting your personality out there during that big viral trend or whatever that people are going to want to come back for you? Not necessarily for the fidget spinner, not necessarily for the emoji movie trend, whatever it is, but for you specifically, because that's the one, common carrier across all of your videos. Otherwise, if not, now all of a sudden you had a trend channel that just kind of died. But if you are able to get people loyal to the format that you've created, your sense of humor, your personality, what have you, you're going to lose some people because you're talking about different things. But hopefully you're carrying a large number of those people over to whatever the next trend is or the next subject matter that you're covering is.
And at the end of the day, it's still a sad reality of the current state of YouTube that it is a very difficult place to actually be very creative.
Yeah.
Because you can always get lucky and lightning in a bottle, or they love you enough, but experimenting, it can be the death of your channel. And it's a very sad thing as a creative of it's a risk now to do anything different rather than that being the ethos of you found success. Now you can maybe do the thing you really wanted to do. It's like you found success. You better keep doing what you're doing, and you're risking now with the way that the recommendation engine is, and among other things, you're risking now trying something else, hurting the thing now that has always been there, which is a sad state of affairs in a lot of ways from a creative perspective on the platform.
Which is where you end up in a place where it's interesting that you see different channels experimenting with this idea that they can't sully their working channel and working format, and instead make sure that you start new channels that have another format on it. And so that at least you sustain this idea of what you already have, and then you have to be a good personality, you have to have a strong influence over the audience to want to go to new channels all the time. But you are seeing this playing around right now. A great conversation that I had one time, and I loved talking with him, was Matthias. Matthias is somebody in his company, High Five Studios. They're totally playing around with the idea of one thing for the most part per channel. And then, you get to see if it doesn't work. When they try to launch the new channel, they try that out and they see how big it can get. If it doesn't work out, done. But at least the gaming content and the VR content, even their gaming channel is separated from their VR channel. So even those, because we know that from doing gaming content once a week, that 2 times
Twice
a week now,
yeah,
with Let's Plays, that when we do a VR, we usually take a hit because it doesn't get as much, depending, unless it's some viral big thing or something like Rick and Morty, it will do less. And so we always, whenever we want to do a cool new VR thing, it is going to take a hit, but Matthias puts it on separate channels. Or actually, we haven't talked to Rhett and Link in a while, but I'm not sure if even the thought around Good Mythical Morning has been an example even of what works inside of this new system, that even This Is Mythical channel of them launching that is instead of putting out all those things that no doubt would be getting more views if they put it out on the Good Mythical Morning channel.
But it could hurt Good Mythical Morning proper.
And that's what we've kind of gone through from watching, if you look at Rooster Teeth, the Smosh Games, Complex, BuzzFeed, you see, or our channel, you see so many different formats formats on these things, and we are willing to let like the big show get less views in order for the other shows to find its audience. And we don't mind that as much.
So watch everything, guys. If the algorithm actually recommended something to you and you're like, I don't like Kids React, or I don't like the theory that's this week, just click it anyway if you like the channel.
Put it over to the
because you're going to
side.
forget that you love the channel eventually, and you won't realize that it's not there anymore.
It's true.
So just watch everything, and that's the answer.
That's it. That is right. How easy is that, guys? Just watch everything.
Yes. So I'm going to go to a question here from Twitter from Sarah, which is going off of kind of something that you just said in terms of how they'll be underperforming videos and things like that. And there's always a troll comment about like, look how unsuccessful you are because of how many little views you got. But the question here is like, why do YouTubers have millions of subscribers, but their view counts rarely, if ever, will come anywhere near the actual subscriber count?
Well, and that goes to something that we alluded to earlier, which is, hey, if every subscriber gets served a certain number of videos, right? And if you don't click on a high enough percentage of that channel's videos, YouTube's like, this person is no longer interested in the content that this channel's creating, right? And so if I'm doing, if I'm Jake Paul and every single one of my videos is me doing wacky stuff, being crazy on the streets of LA, and people love to see my antics. Dabbing, making fun of, the shoes of reporters here and around LA, and people love that sort of thing, and I'm doing it every day. Those subscribers are going to click on every single one. They're all nice and fresh, and I'm going to get a huge amount of growth off of that. But if all of a sudden I mix up a bunch of different formats, I start doing stuff that people aren't attracted to or whatever, now people click on a lower percentage of those videos.
Things.
They click on other things, whatever. People aren't, YouTube's like, here's a new video, and I'm not clicking on it. All of a sudden, I've told YouTube I'm no longer interested in this channel. So even though I'm still subscribed to it, YouTube will be like, well, we're not going to show you those videos anymore. Right. And in our consulting
so it makes
business,
it harder to find that content. You have to now seek it out, like we were just talking about. You have to go to the channel page. You have to search for it. Yeah. And so instead, you're probably not going to. You're probably just going to click on the thing on your homepage.
Yep. And so
that becomes your new addiction.
Yeah, we call that burning out a subscriber. So that subscriber has burned out of that channel's content. So YouTube's like, hey, we served you a bunch of stuff. Clearly, you're not clicking on this channel anymore. So it just disappears.
And that goes back to the question that we are having and trying to prove is that we think it's not just that, and that you can be someone that does watch every single video, but the behavior of all the burned out subscribers ends up making it get recommended to even some of them less.
Yep.
And that's something we're trying to prove right now.
No doubt. It's like nobody would be getting still the amount of subscribers they actually have. But I do think that if there was a different system, but it just doesn't work. There's too many people. There's too many videos.
And it's not in the interest of YouTube as a business to do it that way.
At all. Because, if all those subscribers that were still given the video in the way that we all wish that they were, that was right in front of them, and nothing else was in front of them, just our videos, then we'd all be getting a lot more views because a lot of those people would want to watch more often. But it doesn't. Everything needs to find a way to compete, and they need to build these things so that everything can compete to some degree of fairness to be seen, and so that means less views.
Hey, here's a test I've always wanted to run and I've never had the balls to do.
Yeah.
And I say that very seriously, which is I've always wanted to do a video where I ask everyone to unsubscribe and resubscribe in the moment. So now everyone's treated as a fresh subscriber potentially. I don't know, but I'd be right. It's a scary. Hey everyone, unsubscribe from my channel, but make sure you hit resubscribe, please. Make sure you do it.
Because people have talked about that whole idea of being a new,
fresh or new subscriber,
and the rise versus all the legacy things that YouTube thinks about your channel from all of its history, and it's so tough to know all the things that are just sitting there if you have a 10-year-old channel.
So then watch everything, make a brand new channel, and then come back in.
There it is.
Because don't unsubscribe. Stay subscribed just in case, and then make a new one.
There it is. Perfect.
So Vanessa on Twitter wants to know, if the algorithm were to switch to something else, what would it be? Should it be based off of views more? What do you guys think?
YouTube has made it very clear that they're never going to switch away from some version of watch time. I don't think that'll ever happen because it absolutely kind of aligns with their biggest business.
Was that in their ridiculous deck that you went through that I'd heard about before you jumped into that whole thing? But those types, I forget what was that you dived into?
It was a research paper.
It's a paper from Google Research on the YouTube neural network. Yeah. So that is something that won't go away. It's something I've heard from everyone who's worked at YouTube who I've ever talked about, and including the guy who knows the algorithm probably better than anyone else because he is, I think, like VP of product or algorithm. I forget what department he worked
algorithm.
But he was the guy. I called him the architect because he was the one person who's like, oh yeah, this is how it works. We twist knobs to optimize for this or whatever. So that was really interesting. But if it were to switch, I mean, right now you're seeing it, and I think you might start to see it more frequently, is more optimization for daily active users. So not only how many minutes are you getting people to watch, but how frequently are you getting them to come back to your channel and to your content, because they want people getting into the habit of watching YouTube. And if you're a channel that's able to produce content every day, you're getting people into that rhythm, into that habit. And I think YouTube would optimize for that. The other thing that I could see them doing moving forward is also and I think they might be. There's no good way to tell, but optimizing for the content that also earns them the most off of ad rev. So if right, but
I mean that then adds another layer of what type of content you can't make on YouTube.
Yeah, what type of content you can't make on YouTube, and also what type of content you should be making. Right. So if it's back
I
to
automatically
school,
go to like half cup empty. Whatever,
and I'm like, well, how can we optimize for this?
I'm like, oh god, now we can't even make more stuff because that's what's happened to us.
Right, of course.
We've ended up having to look elsewhere to make scripted content. We can't ever make that money back from making that stuff. So that would only make it even more so of like, nope, the everything's even tighter of what you can be creative.
It does,
with.
And it tightens the funnel even on not only the formats that you create and the shows that you, but like very specifically the topics that you're talking about, right? So like, it's end of August, we gotta start doing back to school because all the advertisers are optimizing for back to school, or there's a new movie that's being launched, so everyone has to talk about the new movie, and that's how you get these like super trends that everyone's talking about, Spider-Man Homecoming or whatever, because it's the thing that's earning the most ad dollars right now. So I could see a world where once YouTube has captured everyone's attention, once YouTube is satisfied with the amount of watch minutes it gets, it's like, okay, well now what is our primary metric? Now the primary metric is money. How do we optimize for that?
And I think what we've like outside of what we're talking about of making sure that the homepage, they make sure they actually understand if it's working to the way that they say it does, because we don't think it does with like super fan channels. But the other side that is not algorithm or recommendation based, but just the idea of features and being able to allow for things like we were just talking about, like a shelf on the homepage, and like give the users and give creators, like if you don't care, if we all don't matter, and if we're all just like 0.5 of the website or something, right? Just like the 5%. If that's all we are for this whole website, then why not let there be ways that if you are somebody that has subscribed to 10 channels or 50 channels or 100 channels, or the opposite side creators wise, if you've gotten to a place where you have 1 million subscribers, 100,000 subscribers, 10,000 subscribers, you have new feature sets that maybe show up, because if you're a super fan that subscribes to 50 YouTube channels, then maybe you want to
customize your homepage.
Yeah, maybe you want to be able to customize things for yourself.
And it shouldn't matter because it's only point whatever.
Right. And that's what we try to say to them. It's like, don't do it as a default, but like give it to the people once
it
actually is happening.
YouTube, because sometimes I'll talk to them about a feature that I think would help creators, and they'll say, but the algorithm it's going to hurt your channel. Like less people will click on this, it will hurt your channel. And I respond back, you are right, and you're accurate, but you should be letting that decision be made by the creators who would maybe prefer to cultivate the audience, because you've devalued subscriptions so much at this point that some of us might rather take the algorithmic hit to cultivate the audience we have, and why not give creators that choice?
Which has been the example that we use is that related videos and those spots that are given, that at one point there was an ability to choose those.
No, it was the most recent 4, I think, wasn't it?
Okay.
At one point?
It was something like that. It was automatic, but it was at least a recent.
There was a pretty long period where they were running a test where the channel that you're currently watching owned those top 4 slots.
Correct.
And whatever YouTube thought or wanted you to click on was always
and that's
spot
starting
5,
to go away,
because
though, I think, isn't it? it?
It is, yeah.
But so
as they're trying to optimize for discovery on the platform.
Right. So the idea is they say, well, this, even if it's not your own videos, it's picking things that like it only helps, you know, because you'll be on somebody else's video or whatever, or it's picking your best video that people will click on. And that one will get another 100,000 views. And we're like, but we don't care. We just released a show. And so we want to put the new show in the related video slot, even if it's only going to get 10,000 extra views, because we want the audience to know that we've released it.
This is the
and
thing,
they're like, but we don't understand. They're like, it's not about views all the time.
Right.
It's like even like what Bernie Burns says all the time is like the idea that it's not about a billion views that you've had. It's about the people that like really care about your content, which is why we're really like happy to be doing the podcast for the people that like watching this, because they're the ones that matter the most.
Yep, absolutely.
And we want to be able to get information to them.
All right, we're gonna try to get one more question in. I don't even know how long
we can do a
going.
speed run.
So A. Arquez on Instagram. What is the best time to upload?
You know, you probably know. We actually
We
don't
have been
we
we talked about this a little bit in Amsterdam when we saw you. We are so paranoid about the fact that we have released at the same times for so long that we have too much paranoia about is that actually impacting the recommendation engine's behavior that we're too afraid to make drastic change. So we've not really experimented with this. We've stuck to what we always do.
Yeah, it's a hard, I mean, to answer the question, there's no one good answer, right? Because a lot of it depends on who your audience is. Have you trained them into watching at certain times of the day? And, you know, is your content the type of stuff that people want to watch early in the morning, late afternoon, you know, in the evening, things like that? You know, we were just talking about Rick and Morty and the fact that it's airing at like 11:30. You know, it's a weird time, but it's memorable. But it is one of those things. So like it's gonna vary dependent on what content genre you're in. I will say that Tuesdays, Thursdays tend to be strong days, as well as Saturdays. Mondays are bad days. Fridays, Mondays tend to be the worst day. Wednesday as hump day tends to underperform. And Fridays Fridays can be pretty hit or miss. It's a bit of a wild card.
It could bring you into the weekend.
It could bring you into the weekend if you have kind of that sort of content, if you're catching people at the right time. But Friday is a bit more of a wild card. But the most like stalwart days of the week are Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday.
Yeah, and it's so interesting from thing to thing because we have conflicting data to that and supporting data to that. So it's so interesting.
But I'd say what it comes down to more than anything is that like if you know how to program for your audience and what they're there for, you're going to knock it out of the park and like to whatever degree, unless your algorithm has been taking a hit recently because you've been trying different things, then no. But that's the thing is that like I think to what the argument would be there of having data that like Matt has towards that is if we're going to launch a new format, then we should try to be on this time on this day versus releasing it on a Monday at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Then it's like, no, probably bad time.
Right, exactly. And the other thing to keep in mind too, is, again, to the idea of who your audience is, are you being watched by a lot of people who would be in school? Well, if that's the case, you know, what are the restrictions of watching in school? Well, I need to either aim it for lunchtime or after school, not when they're at dinner with their parents, or, you know, again, like you said, what part of the world, making sure that it's a time that's going to be accessible for both people on the East Coast and the West Coast as the primary
that's
watch
been our
areas.
Our main thing has been parents and like teens, because we have both. And so basically get them out of school.
And that people
East and
that
West
are
Coast
in like the UK are, it's not too late that they're still, it's late, but they're still, some of them are still going to be awake.
Yep, exactly.
Yep. So we have to wrap up.
Do we?
Yeah, I mean,
were there a lot of good questions?
Do you want to keep going? I mean, there is a lot of good questions, but it's going to be
JC,
long.
do you have to go home? A little bit longer.
That's the employee loyal. Good job. Well done.
That could have made for an awkward moment.
This man wants a bonus. Give this man a raise.
There's so much here. There's also lots of like theorist fans that had just general questions.
Yeah, we could do a speed run. I'll keep it.
So
I'll keep my answer short.
These are some things that came like specific to you, which is from Danny4224. How long does it take to research, edit, write, and record one episode of Game Theory?
100 hours.
There we go.
Incredible. You've been asked that enough that like you got that down.
It's usually around 20 to 30 hours on a typical theory of research and writing, and then about 70 to 80 hours on the edit side.
BNord19, is there a way to manipulate the algorithm to show exactly what I want to see?
Use YouTube search. That's to find what you're looking for.
Mama Pony, what is your advice on starting a YouTube channel? You and Steph have inspired me to start.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm glad. And anytime we can encourage new creators to come on, that's always fantastic. I mean, select a format that you are going to be comfortable doing from now until eternity. and that you'll still be able to find enjoyment out of, that you can produce quickly and easily and cheaply, because
100 hours.
Yeah, right, 100 hours, or just in general, like as YouTube expects. Like if I were to do it all over again, we were lucky enough to create a really 100-hour format early on when you could do that and achieve scale at a time when we were able to do it. And now we have employees who can help us maintain that cadence.
Right, would you have found that audience?
Exactly.
Right
And
now?
the best thing, we would have never made your format ever because of early, from going back to the very beginning, where I think in the early YouTube playbook is where you have the quote from us in there. We never make anything if you can't make 3 or 4 in the same day.
You can't shoot 3 or 4 in the same
That
day.
was the rule that became everything when we were over running production at Maker in that first year. That also became the rule. No ideas. You're not even allowed to film a video, early Maker founders, unless we were making 3 of them in the same day. And so that was the model that still goes here, where we still shoot so many things on a day-to-day basis because you've got to be sustainable and at the same time prevent burnout for yourself. And if you want to do it in the old days, if you want to do something different, now don't. But if before you want to do something different, shoot your format that can come out every single week, and then you can spend 3 weeks making something that's 100 hours long. But don't do that anymore.
Yeah, and for me at this point, like the visuals, especially the visual style of the show, would be very, very different, and so we could thin down that 80 hours of time.
It would have become more like a spoiler episode, like we would do, where it would just be you sitting there,
your 50 YouTube spoilers.
just quickly going through. You would go through the theory, just talking to the camera really quick with graphics popping up around you.
But even that, like again, it's 20 to 30 hours of research.
Well,
and
we
it's
don't make
brutal.
that. We don't make that show anymore.
Right, I know. I don't think I haven't noticed. But yeah, it's funny actually. Fun fact: I was talking to someone about creating like a new visual style, or we're going to reference something. I'm like, oh, I pulled one of those episodes. I'm like, I want the timer over here and this and that. So yeah, no,
Nice.
you're still inspiring generations of
fun format, and great job by our editing team on that stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely, I definitely miss doing it. Though, and also fun fact, so we work with a lot. Well, it's not a lot, but whenever she's around, Eliza Taylor, who's a star of the TV show The 100, so she's in our content a lot. But she only recently, though I've known her for years, just discovered our The 100 spoiler recap.
No way,
So
really?
she called me, being like, "I just saw this," and so we've been, and she seems down to potentially let's do it again, and she'll come and be in it.
Oh, that's
so
amazing.
that's where we might come back.
Bring it back. I get that. I get that.
All right, so last question, Franz Emmanuel, why can't YouTube just stick to the algorithm that everybody's used to?
I mean, right? That's the question we all wish.
We all hate change, right?
Right. Change is hard. I like at the end of the day, they're trying to make changes for the betterment of their company, for getting new audiences onto the platform, for achieving. They basically want everyone who could potentially be a viewer to be on YouTube, right? That's why they're offering YouTube TV. That's why YouTube Red is a thing as a subscription service. That's why all these algorithm changes are happening under the philosophy that, hey, if people are watching more minutes, they're enjoying our content more, they're getting more used to watching things on YouTube, and we will be the future of entertainment. So, and I can't fault them for that. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Well, in a lot of ways, that's why the viewership is able to be as high as it's gotten for you or for us or for anybody, because of that scale and because the system works. It's insane how that system can actually work with the amount of videos that go up on it and how it surfaces anything for anybody at any time. So like even when you're getting 5,000 views, when you're getting 10,000, all the way up, it's like how the hell does it even deliver that stuff? Is a miracle that we all grew up not having. And there's a whole business to be had now and careers to be had now because of it. So like to whatever degree, it's like, I actually think that where they've gotten it to is pretty much the smartest that it can be that I've seen.
It's about training the audience to understand it better, and we don't have the tools to do that very well. Because if everyone understood it better, both the creators and the viewers,
then
it would then be a lot.
Base.
It wouldn't be as damning as it's been. It would still have problems, but it wouldn't be as bad. And that's the biggest problem, is getting the word out.
So maybe that's because they said how they get them to stop changing it. Like the thing that we've been talking with YouTube a lot about is like, how do we help them figure out how to teach everybody the website better? Because I think it's been a good 10 years of people not really feeling that communication of true teaching from YouTube to help you, because it's so complicated. And there's a bit of a cloak and smoke and mirrors going on.
You could say cloak and
dagger.
Yeah,
cloak and dagger. Smoke and mirrors going on that make it hard for you to actually know how to utilize the website as a creator and as a fan. And if they could just help us with the changes, and I think that's what has been one of the biggest outcries, which has been help us actually know the changes coming, what it is and why, And so that we can all just go, oh, if that's what it is, then I can just talk this way. I can figure out that. Instead, it's been like, nobody knows. It so changes. It's to such a huge degree that you can't even recoup, like you can't get back.
Right.
And you lose everything and you're gone after 3 months and you didn't even see it coming.
Yep.
And that's what everybody gets panicked about.
Right. It's 100% true. Like, and like you said, the algorithm has gotten to a point where it's really smart. You know,
Too smart.
Yeah, right. Discoverability, I think, is a lot better on the platform now. I'm seeing a lot of channels that I've never seen before. Granted, it's all based off of this recency of like, hey, you watched this one video about fidget spinner. Here's 50 more on your homepage about fidget. And it's like, hey, I'd love to see something else.
A lot.
Right, exactly. I'd love to see something else that isn't related to that one very specific topic. But they're getting better about kind of surfacing like related shows or something that you might else be interested in.
I'm really
That's
happy
cool.
right now. I have so much Rick and Morty popping up because I've
yeah,
just
of
been
course.
like finding different interviews and
Absolutely.
different little moments. And so I just get my little, like we were talking, like the whole string of just Morty going, and just somebody taking all of those. And that got thrown in my recommendation engine. And I'm like, oh, this is fantastic.
Right. So I think you know, it has gotten to a really smart position. Obviously, there's still kind of exploits to the system around clickbait, you know, just kind of optimizing for long form videos that don't ultimately deliver on their promise and things like that, you know, and obviously the biggest problem with YouTube has always been that they don't do a good job of communicating their changes in advance for creators to kind of adjust and pivot. I think a large part of that is because one, they don't necessarily know how those are going to affect things themselves. Right. And then two, their other big line that they're always worried about is, oh, but the bad creators will try to figure out a way to kind of hack the system and cheat it and optimize for themselves. It's like that's always going to be the case regardless of when you tell people. So
don't be afraid of it.
Yeah, don't be like it will happen and people will do it. So don't be afraid of it.
Then you have advocates like yourself and us that will be on the forefront of helping YouTube police it, because we're going to be like, hey, are you seeing how people are gaming the system? Yep. And we will then know they're gaming the system because we know what the system is.
I will not call people out, but there are so many people over the years I could rattle off that are like people that for a period of time were able to game the system and now they're gone.
Right.
And so there's so many examples of that have happened over the years, and you barely can really find anybody that has lasted the test of time or like even lasted a year or lasted 2 years. But during that moment, it's not just because they only were good at fidget spinners, it's that they were doing giveaways and were doing different things that allowed for them to get to these places. And then there wasn't a strong enough personality. There wasn't actually a format behind that thing. And yeah, they game it for a period of time. Yep. But YouTube, in the way that they built it, it doesn't win out otherwise.
Well, the two things I think to end on is just like...
7 things, Benny. Hold on.
I think the last wrap up here is just like, you know, educating the viewers and viewers educating themselves about how to use the platform a little bit better. And then two is creators being open and talking to each other, sharing information, and, you know, banding together in order to kind of just make this a better place, a more well-educated space, and not necessarily crying wolf and saying YouTube's broken every other week and spreading disinformation.
Preach,
I think that's
which I think both of us can be
all of us.
Like in the sense of what both of our companies have been doing and being in conversation with YouTube really closely for years. We can honestly say that those crying wolf and
there's
not
so
truly,
much damage.
not truly
really
knowing necessarily like. It totally is fine for that person to be saying it. It's just like, it's almost like that problem that everybody's dealing with of like, you got to be careful about what your audience might do with that information and what they might then all believe or be confused about, because they won't be able to, if you're confused as some top creator, imagine you're millions of people watching that don't understand it as much as you do. And then that just spills so many new confusing elements into things that only is going to make it so much harder for YouTube, but also it doesn't make the programmers and engineers happy and all the people that work there.
We can all do better, I think, as a creator community that are
together.
Lucky enough to be in the positions that we're in, to try to find ways to be talking more and coming together to be a unified voice to YouTube. I think would go a very long way. Hard to do that with how busy everybody is.
Absolutely.
But thanks for listening to the longest FBE podcast that we have done. We're going to jump to the shout outs here because we've got to, but now you skip to the end and you are going to hear it because I want to remind everybody. So hashtag algorithm hour for your chance. I was thinking about hashtag Macarena, but I guess not. And yeah, well, there it is. I made my way. So we're going to do some shout outs again. These were folks that used the hashtag last time around, which was Yellow Canoe, off of what Elle, the Teens Reactor, said in one of her first episodes of the show when she was 9. So we're going to go one at a time just with these here. We'll just go down and down.
Go down and down.
So shout out to Ayashri Nepal,
Abhitha Mohan,
Elisa Lockman,
Amethyst Beloved,
Ane Pari,
Andy Mejia,
Anton Svetin,
Astro,
Aurora Menendez,
Fun with Daisy,
Good Cracker,
Jacqueline Valenzuela Diaz,
John Klein,
Jorbo23,
Karthik Narayan,
Kaylee Schlemon,
Kendrick Harris,
Kevin De La Cruz,
Robert Anderson,
Rodrigo Ortiz,
Salvador Lemas,
Shara Shamsuddin,
Stephanie Huaman,
That Whale Girl,
Unicorn Life, aka Lydia,
Vero Vets,
Viniston,
Violet Conway, and here are countries that we saw leaving comments that you're listening from. This place always blows our mind. We say it every time because it is incredible how global the audience is. So people were listening last week from Argentina,
Brazil,
Canada,
Chile,
Guatemala,
Honduras,
India,
Ireland,
Lithuania,
Nepal,
New Zealand,
Nigeria,
Oman,
Peru,
Philippines,
Portugal,
South Africa,
and USA. Shout out to Maryland, Ohio, and Michigan.
Ohio, what?
So huge thanks to MatPat. Thank you for coming on there. Thanks for years of friendship and collaboration and
course,
amazing
guys.
things. Watch Film Theory and Game Theory, and if you're a creator
GQ Live.
that needs help, there's a great consultancy side over to what he does as well. So yeah, thank you for taking all this time.
Hey, thank you guys for inviting me on, for being friends for so long, and for, always preaching the good word out there. I can't wait to see the results of your experiment.
Oh God,
We'll let you know.
see always.
So we will see you next time. Use hashtag FBE Podcast to get some questions of what you want to see next, and maybe we'll do this again the next time the algorithm changes.
Hopefully
Thanks so
later
much.
rather than sooner.
Bye.